Hello to all dear friends and welcome to the BlueCube YouTube channel. In this video, which is the 8th lesson in the Adobe Illustrator software course from beginner to advanced, I'm here to assist you. In this video, you will learn how to use the rotate, reflect, shear, and scale tools and their subtools. I have already created two shapes on the artboard before. Now, before I work with the rotate tool here, I need to first select one of these shapes. For example, I'll select this rectangle using the selection tool, then, to use the rotate tool, I double-click on it initially. This opens the rotate window. Now, from the angle field, I can input the desired rotation angle. For instance, here I type 45 degrees. If you have the preview button enabled, it will show you the shape's changes when you enter the angle. Now, instead of 45 degrees, I'll rotate it by 90 degrees. If I turn preview on and off, you can see the shape rotates by 90 degrees accordingly. See, we can change it manually. But if we want to be very precise, we can come and write the number manually. If we want to see the shape at 45 degrees, we can turn preview on and off to observe the changes. So, if we want to manually adjust the angle, we don't need to toggle preview, but if we want to see the shape while entering a specific angle, it's better to toggle preview. I'll type 0 here. Now, sometimes we want to rotate the shape and also have a copy of it, meaning creating a duplicate with a rotation. See, for example, I'll type 90 degrees here, and I'll toggle preview on and off to show you that the shape has rotated by 90 degrees like this. But instead of clicking OK here, I can copy it. First, I'll click OK so you can see that when I click OK, it rotates the shape by 90 degrees for me. Now, this time, I'll select the star tool and want to create a rotation for the star. Again, I'll double-click on the rotate tool here. Since I had previously set it to 90 degrees, it's already at 90 degrees here. Now, I can input any desired rotation angle here for the star. Instead of clicking OK, I'll click Copy, and this way, I'll get a copy for myself. With the selection tool, I'll move it to a new position. You can see it has created a rotation for me along with a copy. Let me select the rectangle again, choose the rotate tool, double-click it, and this time, for example, I'll type 45 degrees and click Copy. You can see that it creates the rotation and a copy for me. In fact, I have the original shape here, and a new shape with a 45-degree rotation has been created for me. Okay, I'll select these two shapes and delete them like this. Now, another way to rotate is to select the rotate tool and easily hold down the left mouse button on the shape and drag it to rotate it. Please note, friends, I'll double-click again. Before you rotate a shape, you must select it. So, I'll select the shape I want, and then, on the rotate tool, I'll click once. Now, if I click and hold the left mouse button on the shape and drag, I can rotate the shape like this. If I hold down the Shift key, I can rotate the shape by 45 degrees like this. If I release Shift, I can freely rotate the shape. So far, everything we've talked about regarding rotation and the rotate tool has created rotations from the center of the shape. However, sometimes we need to create rotations from the corners. For this, we need to go to the central point or anchor point, hold down the left mouse button, and place it in a corner, for example, where I'm placing it now. Now, the anchor point is in this corner, and if I come back and hold down the left mouse button on the rotate tool again and rotate, this time, it creates a rotation from this corner. Again, I just click once at this point, and then, I hold down the left click in this area and move, creating a rotation from this corner. Wherever I click, the rotation is created from that point or location. If you want the anchor point to return to its original place, first hold the left click on the anchor point and place it in the center of the figure. In this case, the word center appears in the center of the figure. Currently, because the rectangle's color is red, the word center is not visible. But by placing the anchor point in the center, the word center appears, and the anchor point goes to the center. I'll change the color of the rectangle so you can see it more clearly. Now, with the rotate tool again, I move the anchor point. Now, if I want to place it back in its original position, you can see the word center, which is written very small here, and I release the left click. Now, the anchor point is in the center of the shape. I'll select the star, and right now, I can't see the star's anchor point. Only when you click or double-click on the rotate tool can you see the star's anchor point, which is now in the center. Okay, let me change the shape's colors again to make them different. So, this was the rotate tool that you've learned. Now, if I right-click or hold down the left click on this rotate tool, it doesn't matter. Another tool exists called reflect. I'll click on it. If I want to manually create a single reflection of this, or in other words, take a mirror image of this shape myself, I'll click here once, and then, I'll click here once. Since the star was selected, it automatically creates a mirror image for me. Let me press Ctrl+Z and select the rectangle, and then choose the reflect tool. I click once here, and then click once here. You can see it automatically applies the mirror effect to this imaginary line that I created. I press Ctrl+Z to go back and explain the reflect tool to you more precisely. I'll select the rectangle, delete it, and from the Shapes panel, I create another rectangle like this. Then, I double-click on the reflect tool to open the reflect window. Now, in the reflect window, we can choose whether the reflection should be horizontal or vertical, or we can set the angle manually here. For example, I create this angle, and you can see that it creates a reflection for me. I can either click copy or OK. I click copy, and you can see that the shape is reflected like this. Now, I'll delete it. I click on the star, then double-click on reflect. For example, I choose the vertical mode, set its direction, and now I press the copy button. A reflection of the star is created. I select the rectangle shape, and from this corner, I can choose the points I want. For example, I want to create a reflection at the bottom. I choose the bottom option here, and if I select the vertical flip mode, you can see that the reflect mode is created for me. I press Ctrl+Z again. I click on reflect here to create a reflection like this for me. You can perform this task using these options. For instance, if I choose this option and select the horizontal flip, you can see that a reflection is created from this corner because I selected this corner. So, we can come and create reflections using these options and tools. Now right-click on the Scale tool. There are other tools. For now, I will select the scale and drag the left click on the rectangle. You can see that the rectangle's size changes in this way. If I hold down the Shift key, I can proportionally scale it like this, or I can press Alt and make a copy of it along with scaling like this, as you can see. With the Scale tool, we can do various tasks. Just select Scale, hold down the left click, and drag. Now, I can come here and change the anchor point so that the scale is created from this point, not from the center of the shape. I drag the left click from this corner, and the shape scales from the corner, not from the center of the shape. If I click here again, you will see that the anchor point changes, and you can click anywhere you like and drag it to wherever you want, then left click to scale it larger or smaller. This time, I'll select the Shear tool. If I hold down the left click and move the mouse, you can see the changes. If I double-click on the Shear tool, this window opens, and by changing various options, you can modify the shape. I'll cancel this option. Now, for the Scale tool that I explained to you how to use, if you double-click here, the Scale settings window will open for you. In this window, you can adjust the scale more easily and precisely. I'll click on the Uniform section. Let's assume I want to make the shape larger, and I write the number 150. By toggling the preview on and off, you can see the changes. I can also make a copy of this shape. Now I can select non-uniform and specify, for example, that the horizontal scale should be 50% and the vertical scale should be 100%. Well, you can see that this shape has been created in this way. There's also an option here called Scale Corners. If this option is active, it scales the corners and radii of the shape proportionally. Similarly, if this option is active and we've applied a stroke or effects to the shape, it adjusts the stroke and effects proportionally to the scale. For example, I'll initially add a stroke to this shape, say, a value of 8 or maybe a higher value like 12. Pay attention to the stroke. Now, I double-click on Scale. You can see that if I toggle it on and off, you can see the changes. Let me increase the stroke again to make it more noticeable. Well, I double-click on Scale again, toggle it on and off, and you can see the changes like this. In fact, when this option is active, the size of the stroke and effects also increases. Now, if I copy this, a copy like this is created for us. I'll select this shape and delete it. The last tool I'll tell you about in this video is the Reshape tool. If I click on it, I can use it. Simply come to the stroke part of the shape and click. First, I select the shape and then click with this tool. Notice that the shape cursor changes, and in this state, you can add a point like this. Now, with this tool, pay attention, with the Direct Selection tool, I can modify the shape. I double-click on this point I added and change the shape. I select this point and move it inward. This way, we can create more complex shapes and make the changes we want using these handles. So, as you can see, with this tool, when you hover over the edges, a point is added to the cursor, and when you click, a point is added. With the Direct Selection tool, I can select that point and change its state. And with these handles, I can come in and modify my own shape and create more complex shapes. We will work with all these tools extensively in the future. Be sure to practice these techniques so that you can master the tools I've mentioned. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this video. Remember, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, click the subscribe button or the subscribe below the video, and please like the video. Goodbye for now.